Number 5.
Gugu Pizza delivering pizza to the space station? Boss, this is just not right is a raged game created with Unreal Engine 5.3. Like many other raged games, your goal is to climb higher and higher to reach the goal, but what sets this one apart is that you also have to balance a stack of pizzas using the left and right trigger, which is a mechanic it borrowed from Death Stranding. I randomly came across this game when searching for Unreal games on SteamDB and was surprised that I didn't find out about this sooner, considering it's quite successful and sold over 20,000 copies on Steam with an estimated gross revenue of over $100,000. Gugu Pizza utilizes many free asset packs you've probably seen before, like the Tokyo stylized environment and the stylized Paris street, but the developers were able to combine all of these assets seamlessly, leading to a cohesive and beautiful looking game. It also shows that the mix between stylized environments and pixel art characters can work quite well, and they also implemented a subtle depth of field effect to make things look even nicer. The game actually uses Lumen for global illumination, and you can see the difference if I turn it off by force, but the game still performs well and is sitting at very positive reviews. Since I wanted to know more about how this game was created, I reached out to the developers who were happy to answer my questions. Gugu Pizza was created by a team of 2 developers based in Korea, and it took them about 7 months to get from the initial planning phase to releasing the game. They had about 6 years of experience with Unity before starting work on this game, but this is their first Unreal Engine title. The initial idea came from them wanting to combine 2D characters with a 3D environment, and during the development they actually came across my channel, which they said helped them out a lot. They also mentioned how they utilized the free PaperZD plugin and how essential it was to their workflow. And the game was created with 100% blueprints and no C++ at all. Before we move on to the next game, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Coursera. Coursera is a learning platform that offers access to online courses and degrees from leading universities and companies. It also hosts multiple courses created by Epic Games, and the one I want to highlight in this video is the Epic Games Game Design Professional Certificate. While you'll also use Unreal Engine in this course, it actually focuses more on game design principles, how to write game design documents, level design, user experience, and so on, making it quite different from the majority of other Unreal courses you'll find out there. In the last chapter, you'll plan out a complete game with multiple game modes and create it using the knowledge you acquired in all prior chapters, and by completing the course you'll earn a certificate by Epic Games. Use the promo link in the description to find the course and get 40% off for 3 months of Coursera Plus.
Number 4.
Hellpie is a 3D platformer which was created with Unreal Engine 4.27. Platformers like this are usually defined by the moveset of the main character, and what makes this one interesting is that you have a little cherub attached to you which you can toss around to attack enemies, or you can use it as an anchor point to swing across gaps. Hellpie sold about 40,000 copies and reached an estimated gross revenue of about $390,000 on Steam. Due to the genre and cartoony art style, you probably wouldn't be able to tell on first glance that this game was made with Unreal, but there actually is a developer interview on both the official Unreal Engine YouTube channel and the Unreal blog about the game's development. And this is probably tied to the project receiving an Epic Mega Grant. According to the interview with one of the co-founders of the indie studio Sluggerfly, Hellpie is their 3rd indie title, and while their company started out with 3 developers who had prior experience making games on their day job, the team grew to 6 developers to create Hellpie. Their 2 prior titles, Ben and Ed Blood Party, also used Unreal Engine, so by the time they worked on this 3D platformer, they already had quite a lot of experience with the engine. The movement of the main character is achieved through the character movement component I'm sure all of you have used before. So this is another great example that Unreal can effectively be used for many different genres outside of just shooters.
Number 3.
Capybara Spa is a cozy management game created with Unreal Engine 4.27. It released in 2022, which is much earlier than the incremental game hype phase we're currently in, but it follows a very similar formula of making the numbers go up and giving access to new items, which then make the numbers go up even faster. It's currently sitting at an overwhelmingly positive rating and achieved an estimated gross revenue of over $200,000 on Steam, while also being available on the Nintendo Switch. The mechanics here are very simple, and you just have to drag the capybaras into bathtubs, grow food and flowers which they request, and then collect your money. I believe in terms of scope, this is a great beginner game to create, and probably a better idea than just jumping into your open world action RPG right away, because there's only a single screen and the amount of 3D models and animations needed is very overseeable. In terms of programming, you also won't have to deal with any complicated logic, and since this game was created by Cozy B Games, which I talked about in a prior episode, knowing that she's mostly an artist, I believe this game was very likely created only using blueprints and no C++.
Number 2.
Slacker's Carts of Glory is a simple racing game where you drive a shopping cart downhill to reach the next liquor store which was created with Unreal Engine 4.27. It very much reminds me of the PS3 and Xbox 360 era, where we had games like Pain that also make heavy use of ragdoll physics. The game sold over 100,000 units on Steam and reached an estimated gross revenue of about $1 million. This is a huge achievement, especially considering this was the first game made by a team of 3 developers and completely self-published. And a developer landing a hit like this with their first game is definitely something you don't see very often. In terms of gameplay, it's very simple and focuses on just one mechanic, which makes me believe that programming probably isn't what they spend too much time on, and most of the work had to go into making assets and levels. In a Reddit reply by one of the developers, he mentions how most assets were created in-house and they only used a few bought assets, which they then modified to fit the art style. On their YouTube channel, they also have a video showing their level creation process, claiming that through the custom editor tools they built, a map that would take them about 15 days to make can now be created within about 3 hours. They now mostly have to worry about setting the spline for the roads and general shape of the terrain, while small details and objects will be placed procedurally based on where the roads are.
Number 1.
Suffer the Night is a first-person survival horror game made with Unreal Engine 4.27. It was created by a solo developer who goes by Tainted Pact and also created Terror at Oakheart, which I talked about before in a different video. Suffer the Night was actually his first commercial release and it did pretty well, selling over 5,000 units and getting over 250 public reviews on Steam. And it took him roughly a year and a half to create. In my opinion, the graphics and atmosphere are great and I especially like the subtle depth of field effect he implemented. The game also has some interesting interactions with drawers and doors you can open by dragging. And the text adventure sections you can access from a floppy disk made me feel quite nostalgic. When you go down to the basement, you can find an arcade machine which has an actual playable 2D game built into it. Since the game is actually quite elaborate, having many different enemy types, a potion system, currency system, and things you'd see in a Metroidvania, I thought he just used some sort of finished game template from the marketplace, but it turns out he programmed this entire 2D game from scratch, and it actually was his testing ground for Paper 2D, with many of the lessons he learned tying into Terror at Oakheart. And the developer also mentioned how the entirety of Suffer the Night was created with blueprints and no C++, and that he learned the important lesson of not worrying too much about what kind of game he thinks people want him to make, but rather double down on what kind of game he really wants to make. And by the way, if you remember, I discontinued the series back in August 2025. But I now decided to bring it back, not necessarily as a monthly series, but I might make a new episode every time I have 5 games I genuinely want to talk about and have a sponsor lined up to fund the production of the episode. And for now, there's another one planned for May and June. As always, a huge thanks to my awesome patrons and YouTube channel members.